Welcome back to Madison Square Garden. The Alabama Crimson Tide beginning their year for the second year in a row on this floor in this tournament as they take on number 22 Pittsburgh. Time now for our Star Watch, and everybody says Julius Page is pretty close to being a star, and by the end of this year will be a star as he tries to pick up some of the load lost with Brandon Knight leaving the program, one of the great athletes in college basketball. For Alabama, Antoine Petway began his career at Alabama as a walk-on, and now in the mind of Mark Gottfried, his head coach, he has arguably become the most important player on the team. Now look at the Subaru starting lineups. First for the Alabama Crimson Tide, and no team in the SEC lost as much as they did. 4 starters are gone. All of these players were in the program last year, but all will be expected to really pick it up. They're young, and this is a thin Alabama team as well. Not a whole lot of muscle on these guys as opposed to Pittsburgh. Now they've got some muscle. Torrey Morris at 282, Siobhan Troutman about 240, shot 72% last year. And again, Carl Krauser is the spotlight guy as he takes over for Brandon Knight. Mark Gottfried says he admits we're not very good right now. That's what he says, but it's going to be fun to coach this team. It's a rebuilding year as they move some young players into the lineup on a more regular basis, and he's excited to see how this team could improve over the next few months. The expectations a little bit higher for first-year head coach Jamie Dixon and the Pittsburgh Panthers, the defending Big East tournament champions, and a team that went to the Sweet 16 last year. Did that for the second year in a row. We are underway, and the Panthers in visiting blue control the opening tip.
And here's the difference right now. We've been so familiar with Mr. Knight at the point guard slot. Mr. Krauser takes over. New York City, flashy. Can he execute in a half-court game? Because that is where Knight was so efficient, had that winner's mentality.
Now you can see they're running their stuff. Pittsburgh likes to use some clock, and they will stay in their offense, but they turn it over here, and the Crimson Tide out on the run.
Very inexperienced basketball team. Lose the combination of Williams and Dudley.
This is Chuck Davis with a jump hook. The sophomore out of Selma, Alabama, did not play very much at all last season, but he inherits a starting job with both Erwin Dudley and Kenny Walker leaving the program after their eligibility expired.
Well, they're really high on Davis. They think that Davis really has improved tremendously.
Krauser couldn't find Troutman, settles for Page, inside to Torrey Morris. And Jamie Dixon says he is a much improved player. Last year, he backed up Ontario Lett in the middle. But Morris is a little bit lighter, quite a bit stronger, in better shape, and he's a starter this year.
Well, they say he's really improved offensively, and I think that was an example down in the low block inside, watching them working on the inside. As you look here at their graphic, last season, 28-5. What a year they had.
A terrific season for the Pittsburgh Panthers, their second extraordinary year in a row. But, as you saw, they lose Brandon Knight, Ontario Lett, and Donatas Zavascus. They had a great 8-man rotation last year. 3 are gone. You're looking at the other 5. The bench is made up almost entirely of freshmen.
I'll tell you, they got a nice nucleus returning, and the freshmen can play. Especially, we're going to see a diaper dandy from right out of New York City by the name of Chris Taff, 6'10", from out of Xaverian High School, same school that produced Chris Mullen.
You got to look at Jamie Dixon there, taking over as the head coach after being an assistant under Ben Howland, not only at Pittsburgh, but also prior to that in Northern Arizona. Ben Howland now, of course, the coach at UCLA.
Nice
Shelton underneath, and Kennedy Winston misses an easy layup.
He made an excellent cut without the basketball. Ran a good, like a shuffle cut, modified shuffle cut, got the layup.
Troutman battling hard inside, following his own miss.
Troutman didn't miss a shot on the interior last year.
Brown from outside doesn't get the 3. This is Petway. He is the point guard now for Alabama, off to Davis.
Too stationary right now. Got to get a little bit more ball movement and player movement. Easiest guy to guard, we've said so many times in the past, are players that are stationary. Man, Brock's dad played for the Globetrotters.
That's right. Globetrotters have had a pretty good start this year. Beat Michigan State, beat Syracuse already. Davis the jumper, no. And wrapping up the rebound is Troutman. Here comes Krauser, one of 4 New York City kids on this Pittsburgh team. And they got 3 more coming into the program next year.
We're going to take a look at your little shuffle cut right here. Nice little cut. Back screen. Got to convert that. It was too easy. It was too simple. You got to convert that. There they are. Look at them battling on the inside.
Winston, the leading returning scorer for Alabama, just a sophomore. He averaged about 11 points per game last year.
Didn't gain his eligibility after missing the first 11 games. He was suspended.
This is Winston right now. Little fadeaway jumper. Nice touch.
He told me he's about an 85%. Had knee surgery.
Mark Gottfried really only got him back practicing with the team full-time just a few days ago. Wasn't sure until a couple of days ago if he was going to start Winston.
I think, Dan, we've had so many injuries already. Every team we talked to seems to have a key player that's out. Going to take a look at a Winston right here. Kennedy, a little one-on-one. He's got great offensive skills. Very versatile offensively, and he can put points on the board quickly.
Page from the baseline. He could put points on the board quickly as he ties it up.
He's explosive. He's a high riser. He's a great transition player. Loves playing, loves competing.
Davis got his man in the air, but didn't or couldn't draw the foul. It's out of bounds. It'll stay with the Crimson Tide. And Alabama began their season a year ago right here and knocked off Oklahoma in the first game of the season. And in December, everything was great for Alabama, but it really went downhill in the second half of the year for the Crimson Tide as Page is called for the foul. At one point in December, they were number 1 in the country.
They were 9-0.
Yeah, and then they basically backed into the tournament, lost in the first round, and wound up 17-12 on the season. Petway underneath as he got inside of Krauser. Krauser might have bumped him a little bit, and Petway missed the layup. Now Krauser looking ahead for Troutman, and he loses the ball.
You must convert those layups. When you get those layups on the inside like Petway had, you have to convert that. You're talking about Alabama. They were number 1. We saw them against Oklahoma, as you said. Mo Williams was brilliant in that game, had 25 points. I feel, and I still feel very strongly about it, I think that Williams should be on the floor right now, improving his stock. He was a second-round draft choice. That means he becomes a guy hoping and praying every year to make it.
Davis showing a little offensive ability here early as he comes up with his second field goal to give the Crimson Tide the lead again.
I'll tell you what's really, really interesting, seeing the easy shots that Alabama's getting on the inside. Something you did not see with the makeup defensively of Pittsburgh in the past.
Pittsburgh known as one of the toughest and best defensive teams in the country the last couple of years. Rebound for Shelton on the miss by Krauser.
Shelton could really, if he squares his body, an excellent long-range shooter from out of Memphis.
Winston again trying to push Jerron Brown away from him. Gets it back and gets a decent look for 3. Too strong. And it is out of bounds to Alabama as we move to our first TV timeout of the night. When we come back to the Garden, the bizarre story of the Bahamas Bellman. 6-4 lead on Pittsburgh. So here's some of the things that Mark Gottfried has learned about his team. He takes them down to the Bahamas in August for a foreign tour. They're going to play 5 games against a number of Bahamian teams, including the national team. They're checking into their hotel, and the bellman comes up to them and says, "Are you the coach?" Gottfried says, "Yeah, I'm the coach." "Why?" And he said, "I play for the national team." And Gottfried says, "Yeah, right." A couple of days later, they're playing, and he does play for the national team, and he's lighting up the Crimson Tide. Nobody can stop the guy. So Gottfried calls a timeout, and he brings his guys into the huddle, and he says, "Let me ask you something. Can anybody here guard the bellman?" And the bellman from the hotel was a guy like 32 years old, playing on the national team there for years, and he was too much to handle for these young Alabama kids.
I mean, those kids, they go to the Bahamas. You think they're thinking about basketball? Have you been to the Bahamas? Gottfried has a great passion for Alabama, the Crimson Tide. Played there, was an outstanding point guard, understood how to win, understood how to make other people better. Worked on a staff with Jim Herrick the year they won the national title.
Chris Taft is into the game, and now for Pittsburgh, the highly touted freshman out of Xaverian High here in New York City. Big guy, 6'10", played very well in the preseason, wears number 23 for the Panthers.
I asked Page about him before the game, and Page said, "Hey, he's a Dickie V. He's a monster. He's a monster." That's a very positive compliment.
Jerron Brown rattles it down to tie the game at 6. Barry Rorson is the assistant who also went to Xaverian High, who is so responsible for Pittsburgh getting these good kids year after year out of New York City. Davis again, very assertive inside, going after everything. But he can't finish here. Boy, it helps when you got a pipeline in a city with as much talent as New York City, and that's the guy right there, Barry Rorson, who is not solely responsible, but largely responsible for getting all these great New York City kids to come to Pittsburgh.
Well, you know, Jamie Dixon, and he really brought many of these kids there, along with obviously Ben Howland, who did a phenomenal job as their leader, and certainly the guy that set the tone. It starts with the leadership of the man on top. Gary had a chance to go to UCLA, but he said, hey, my mom lives in New York. I want to be close to my mom. Plus, he said the loyalty to Jamie and to all these kids that I recruited, I wanted to remain in Pittsburgh.
And the loyalty went both ways, because it was the kids, the players, who went to the AD's office when Ben Howland left and said, we want you to give the job to Jamie Dixon, even though this is now a high-profile program, and this is Jamie Dixon's first head coaching job. Page, no. The three, the rebound for Troutman. Nice. Boy, he just, once he grabs it and spins, he gets a little bit of room, and he banks it home. 72% field goal percentage last year for Troutman, and many of them on the offensive glass.
You know, strong hands, really has great hands around the basket. Defensively last year, Pittsburgh allowed 39% as you watch Troutman play with the offensive rebound. See, now he's going to protect the basketball. There's those strong hands, little pump fake, little head fake, and goes up and scores. 39% field goal percentage. That's why you go 28-5.
Best in the country defensively was 37% last year by St. Joseph's, a team we're going to see at game number 2 here tonight against Gonzaga.
That's going to be a heck of a matchup. Both clubs can score.
Davis is blocked by Taft, and now Taft is running the floor hard at the other end, looking for a return feed. Krauser takes a push. You know who Taft reminds me of, just watching him for 1 minute? Chris Wilcox.
Oh, yeah, remember Wilcox. Now he's
got that size.
There he is on the inside. We're going to see his first college block. That's his first rejection. It will not be his last. There he is. Block shot. 6'10" from out of Xaverian High School.
For more on Taft, let's go to Doris.
Well, Chris Taft actually wavered when Ben Howland took the UCLA job. Wasn't sure he wanted to go to Pittsburgh. His mom told him, if Jamie Dixon gets the head coaching job, you're not going anywhere. Once Jamie got the job, Chris Taft had a conversation with him. He said, I'm so comfortable with Jamie. This is where I knew I wanted to be. He's happy to be at Pittsburgh.
I'll tell you, Doris, you take a look at Jamie, you talk to Jamie, and you can see why all the moms like Jamie. He was an actor, a child actor. His dad was a big-time actor in Hollywood.
Right? I guess one beer commercial, too, where he got dunked on, right? That's his most famous or infamous one, depending on your point of view.
Pittsburgh forcing to play 5-on-5, getting back defensively in transition. Young club, very difficult to get kids to get into a rhythm and to execute in a half-court game when they're inexperienced. There's not a lot of familiarity in terms of offensively with the kids down there in Alabama.
Jerron Brown sits down. There he is on the bench for Pittsburgh. And Yuri Dimitris, who did not play very much off the bench for the Panthers last year, expected to get more playing time this year. This is Dimitris. Grew up in Pittsburgh and went to the old Fitzgerald Fieldhouse as a Panther fan as a kid. Big-time scorer in high school in a weak league, but expected to contribute this year for Pittsburgh. Don't forget game 2 of the Coaches versus Cancer doubleheader coming up tonight here on ESPN2. That's Jameer Nelson's mom.
Oh, she's fired up, man. She's fired up like last night. Fired up.
St. Joseph's bought better than 4,000 seats for tonight's game. Gonzaga St. Joe's game 2 here tonight. Troutman on the feed from Dimitris, and the Panthers are back on top.
Put that in perspective. 4,100 seats, and St. John's, a New York school, had 600 tickets and returned, according to Rick Giles, returned over 100.
Right now, you talked about it during the game last night. There is just no buzz in New York City for St. John's basketball, and it's early, and they tend to get lost amongst the professional sports. But, you know, as you said last night, this is a critical year for this program, don't you think?
You know, but where are the students? Where are all the people there that follow the program? Where's the loyalty to the kids, to Mike Jarvis, and coming out and giving them that home court advantage? It wasn't available.
No.
I mean, there was no home court advantage here at all for the kids at St. John's.
If anything, Marquette had a bit of a home court advantage because of all the fans underneath one basket. Troutman hands it off. Page, he's a lefty, gets stuffed by Davis, and it goes over to Alabama. So Pittsburgh having trouble getting going offensively, but they do still have a slender 2-point lead on the Crimson Tide. down 2 to Pittsburgh early here in game 1 of our doubleheader tonight of the Coaches versus Cancer Classic. As we mentioned off the top of the show, Alabama has lost as much as any program in the SEC, maybe any program in America. 4 starters are gone, including Mo Williams, who left for the NBA with 2 years of eligibility remaining. Alabama's had a lot of early departures recently, and when you look at it, although you think of Alabama as a football school, a lot of Alabama guys have gone on to the NBA.
Well, what about guys like Latrell Sprewell, who did his thing right here, now playing certainly for doing a great job of Minnesota. You think about Antonio McDyess, who the Knicks hope to get back in the lineup. Robert Horry, Derek McKee, Jason Taffy, Hollywood Robinson, David Benuela. You think about Gerald Wallace. I mean, there are a lot of outstanding players down at Alabama.
Ragged offense for the Tide here on this possession, but they get the ball back, and they've still got now 10 seconds on the shot clock. Winston trying to force something baseline, and he got tied up. And the one criticism of Winston once he got eligible is that maybe he took too many shots. Maybe he tried to become too much of a part of the offense last year with all those veteran players.
Yeah, with the veteran players, but on his team here, he's going to have to provide that offensive spark. He's got the offensive skills and offensive ability, and they're going to have to get him 18 to 20 shots a game.
Jamario Davidson, a 6'10 freshman from Atlanta, into the game now for the Tide, and Mark Gottfried likes his upside, doesn't he?
They're high on him. I love watching him in a workout today. He's got a great upside, longs, a great arm.
Taft tried to find Troutman. It bounces off to Demetrius in the corner. 5 on the shot clock. And again, Troutman finishes inside.
I think he's a finisher. Certain guys can make plays inside, but they never finish. Mr. Troutman, he can finish. Chevy, man, he's playing like a Rolls Royce. Forget about it. Nothing's anything wrong with a Chevy as you watch him on the inside, Mr. Troutman.
We asked Jamie Dixon before the game, how does a guy shoot 72% at this level of basketball? He said sometimes there's a loose ball, a scramble for the ball down on the floor. Everybody's still looking down on the floor. He's already got it. He's so quick to get the ball from down on his hip to up and into the basket. He just moves quicker than anybody else.
And he also understands what a good shot is. He very rarely takes a bad shot. Everything he takes is right around the basket. He has scored their last 3 baskets.
And Pittsburgh now leading by 4 as we near the midway point of the first half. Evan Brock, a left-hander, number 21, another sophomore, off to Davidson, the freshman. Wild shot, follow no. Tied on the glass, though. Winston stuffed from behind, and it's out of bounds to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh up by 4 here in game 1 of our doubleheader tonight of the Coaches versus Cancer Classic at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Number 22 Pittsburgh taking on Alabama. Game 2 tonight, number 12 Gonzaga and number 18 St. Joseph's. That's really the key game, the highlight game of this 2-night 4-game 8-team tournament. Looking forward to seeing the Zags and the Hawks in game 2.
I'll tell you one thing, you talk about Pittsburgh defensively. Last year they held all but 4 opponents below 70 points. Unbelievable. They also out-rebounded their opponents by almost 7 per game. We had last night Skip Krauser and Wake Forest, who led the nation in rebounding margin. And Skip Krauser had the job.
Yep.
He had the job in Pittsburgh.
Offensive foul against Alabama. That is the second on Kennedy Winston. There's Jamie Dixon, Ben Howland's assistant, who got the job after Skip Krauser decided to stay at Wake Forest. And Krauser got a long-term deal. Jamie Dixon got a good deal. I mean, everybody seems to have come out happy in this.
Well, why didn't Jamie Dixon? I wonder if he sent him a nice gift. He said, hey, Skip, thanks a lot. I'll send you a nice gift, man.
Right.
I really appreciate you keeping that job at Wake Forest.
4-point lead for the Panthers. Now past the midway point of the first half. Brown has returned for Pittsburgh. And again, look at how disciplined they are as they attempt to run their stuff. They're going to pass it 8 or 9 times, although they throw it away here on this possession. Shelton, no, and then the follow is good for Davidson.
That's Davidson's first basket as a collegiate. Let me tell you, he is going to be a special player. State championship in high school team, long arms.
They got a lot of guys. Davidson 6'10", 210. Brock number 21, 6'8", 200. They got to put some meat on some of these guys. 3 for Demetrius, rattles out, and here comes Petway.
They're very active.
Wide open look on the wing. Shelton misses the 3.
See, that's the shot he'll normally make, where he can square his body, get the great look. Petway did an outstanding job feeding him the basket.
Shelton's the guy who's got to be the outside shooter for Alabama, recovering from an injured finger that he suffered in the first minute of the first exhibition game with the Crimson Tide.
I'll tell you, Dan, that was a poor pass right there. Poor job of executing.
Shelton again. Oh, he hits the floor hard, but finishes strong.
He's from out of Memphis, Tennessee. A lot of people thought he would have went to Memphis. Took the ball to the basket strong, normally a long-range shooter. Had 22 points in their exhibition game.
And Jamie Dixon calls his first timeout, the Pittsburgh head coach. Let's go back down to that last sequence.
See, can't turn you back to the ball right here. Turn you back to the ball. You got to look at the ball. You got to see, boy, you man. Poor job defensively right there. Poor job.
Folks, tomorrow ESPN and ESPN2 have two great college football games for you. On ESPN2 at 7. Pittsburgh taking on West Virginia in the backyard brawl. Then on ESPN at 7:45, it's Alabama trying to slow down third-ranked LSU. College football on ESPN, every game a must-win.
Wow, some of the kids told me they can't wait to get back to see that game. LSU, certainly an outstanding football team right now. Alabama struggling, but I'll tell you one thing about Alabama. With Coach Schuler right there, there's going to be a load of integrity. Things are going to be done in a classy way, and they will get it back. Alabama's got some passionate fans, and they will find a way to get back on top in football.
Tied at 12. Pittsburgh, the Panthers have developed some real passionate fans in basketball the last few years with a success. The Oakland Zoo, a game that you and I saw last year.
They give a shirt.
Yeah.
I got a shirt that says Dickie V on
That's
the back.
right. Made us honorary members. Page is off on the 3, and Petway comes down to get the rebound. Jamie Dixon, you get the feeling he likes it more when Page is driving to the basket, using that athleticism rather than settling for a lot of outside shots.
Well, I think what happens with a lot of kids, it's part of the mindset. They want to prove to people they have range as a shooter because they hear so many people talking about, well, you know, his range is questionable. So they try to get away from their strengths.
Let's get a little bit more now on Page. Back to Doris.
Well, Dan, just a moment ago, you were mentioning that Page is content to shoot jumpers. He had a high ankle sprain early in the 2 exhibition games. He did hang around and shoot on the perimeter. He doesn't want to test it yet. We'll see if he attacks it as the game goes on.
All right, Doris, thank you very much. Page out of Buffalo, a junior, preseason, a second-team All-Big East pick.
He's an explosive player. He's an athlete. He's got to attack the basket. He's going to attack the basket.
And he might be heading to the bench right now as he just picked up his back here in New York City. Carl Krauser with the Panthers struggling to get going here against Alabama. Tied at 12, 7:59 to play. Well, as we continue to look kind of big picture, it's time now for Dickie V's All-Windex team. The guys who are going to really clean the glass, and maybe nobody in America, Dick, does it better than UConn stud Emeka Okafor.
Oh, he's an outstanding rebounder, dominator on the inside. He loves attacking the glass. Mr. Okafor, the reason that Connecticut is Uno #1. What about James Thomas? He's a man down there in Texas. Ryan Gomes, a lot of people don't know about him. They're going to have a heck of a year, Providence. Arthur Johnson, he hooks up with his buddy Ricky Paulding. And I'll tell you, Wayne Simeon, I love the combination of Langford and Simeon. What a scoring combo for Kansas.
Your first chance to get a look at Okafor and Ben Gordon and the rest of the Huskies Monday night, 7 p.m. on ESPN2. UConn's in the preseason NIT this year, and they'll take on Yale Monday night. There's a 3 for Antoine Petway, and the Tide are back on top.
You know, Petway got some starts last year, so he's probably the most experienced player. They rotate into the zone defensively. A lot of young players have a tendency to make mistakes playing man-to-man. Good decision by Mark Gottfried. They're long. They got those long arms, a la Syracuse. They cover a lot of passing lanes.
Floater by Brown won't go down. A rebound, Alabama.
I know you saw Syracuse last year with that 2-3 zone with those long arms. The wingspan they had made it very difficult for you to move the basketball. I see a very similar potential team, not as good as Syracuse, obviously, but I'm seeing a team that would probably fit the mix of the 2-3 zone.
Mark McCarroll into the game and out for Pittsburgh. Another kid from this area. He's from Queens, Christ the King High School, number 21. Petway, nice look inside. Davis gets 2 men in the air and draws the foul. And Chuck Davis has been impressive inside so far for Alabama.
Well, good head fake right there. Jamie Dixon certainly didn't like that as you look here at the shot selection.
Now, Pittsburgh's been impressive inside. High percentage shots are kind of their bread and butter, but from outside they haven't been getting good looks, or at least haven't been knocking them down.
They got to find some people that can make that perimeter shot. You have to make the 3 today in college basketball.
Strong drive by Shelton. You know, these Alabama kids are giving up size and strength and experience to Pittsburgh, but so far they've all been very strong attacking the hoop. On a 9-0 run right now.
Well, they're talented kids. They're just inexperienced. Played well last year in the opener here against a good Oklahoma team.
Morris misses the 15-footer with a rebound to Davidson.
Davidson has a chance to be special. He has great work ethic. He can be a special player.
That's him right there, long on the jumper, and now Pittsburgh with a rare opportunity to run. It's Krauser.
Alabama's done a great job in defensive transition, not allowing Krauser to get them going with the transition game.
Krauser not really a three-point shooter, finds Page in the corner, but now they'll reset.
Nice look.
McCarroll, and he will go to the line. Davidson over the back of him. Meanwhile, down at the other end, the little guy, one of the little guys for Alabama, Shelton, getting right to the bucket.
Yeah, really getting up strong. Nobody rotated over to give any kind of help. The word on him, if you look at the book in terms of his evaluation and scouting report, it says shoots the three. Doesn't really talk about his ability to drive. Hey, you think about Pittsburgh right now. The Steelers, the Penguins, and the Pirates in baseball all struggling. The town's become a college town. What about Pittsburgh right now in football? Larry Fitzgerald, unbelievable acrobatic receiver, doing a phenomenal job. And Pittsburgh basketball, everybody's getting excited about Pittsburgh basketball.
And again, tomorrow night, Pitt football team taking on West Virginia, the backyard brawl. Tomorrow night, 7 Eastern on ESPN2. So a big weekend for Pittsburgh college sports fans. There's Siobhan Troutman coming back in. He looks like he could be a tight end probably, with his hands and his body.
Yeah. Hey, every time I do a Pittsburgh game, one of the real thrills I get, a chance to beat Dick Groat. Led, unbelievable, 1952, led the nation in scoring and assists when he played for Duke. The only guy to do that. That's an amazing achievement. He is the voice, the analyst for Pittsburgh basketball.
Just as amazing, he was the MVP
1960.
of the hey, don't say it like you knew it. He was the MVP of the National League for the Pittsburgh Pirates in 1960, but he looked you straight in the face before the game and he said, I wasn't very good at baseball.
Yeah, I couldn't believe when he said that. I said, what, are you kidding me? Are you serious? Come on, Dick, you're only MVP in 1960.
He was the MVP in his second best sport, but he wasn't very good.
Yankees don't want to hear too much about that 60 team and Bill Mazeroski.
Brown kicks it out to Krauser. The Tide, though, closing quickly on the perimeter right now. Now Krauser gets a look.
They're going to make him shoot that three. They're 0 for 7. It's been Brick City outside.
Petway off to Shelton, and Demetrius has to foul to prevent the easy layup.
Alabama's got a nice little rhythm right now going.
Tomorrow at 3:30 Eastern over on ABC, you'll see number 10 Purdue taking on number 4 Ohio State. That's the spotlight game of the afternoon. Others will see Kansas State, Nebraska, NC State, Florida State, or Arizona State, Washington State. Check local listings for the game in your area.
Hey, talking about doing the game tonight, sitting to my right, CM Newton doing the game because Alabama plays football tomorrow at LSU, so he's stepping in. The regular announcers are not here. CM Newton, one of my favorite people, Hall of Famer for his contributions to basketball.
A little pressure now by the Tide. Well, they're not backing down at either end of the floor right now from this heavily favored Pittsburgh team that's got so much more experience than the Alabama kids do. Krauser going to launch another long jumper. This is a 2, and it goes down to bring the Panthers back within 3.
See, he stepped right inside that three-point line. You always want your players to be aware of the three-point line. If you're going to shoot a shot from 3 inches inside it, why not be back behind it?
Emmett Thomas, a 6'4" senior out of Birmingham, a transfer from South Alabama a couple of years ago into the game now for the Crimson Tide. Here's Davis again getting guys in the air, but he can't finish.
You know, it's amazing. They have missed about 4 easy opportunities.
You're looking at a guy, Chuck Davis.
Nice pass.
And another finish. See, there's the difference right now. In a couple of years, these Alabama kids will finish all of those the way Siobhan Troutman does right now.
Wow, that was a nice 2-man game right there. Great angle, great entry. I mean, a terrific pass by Krauser as he gets the ball inside. Watch the post. What a great angle on the interior. Just does a terrific job. 45-degree angle. I'll tell you, Troutman can finish inside, Doris.
He certainly can, Dick. He actually didn't have much competition in recruiting Jamie Dixon when he was looking at Troutman. UMass, LaSalle, and Duquesne, all Atlantic 10 schools. Why? He was a late bloomer. And that was what Jamie Dixon was known for. He said, I never looked at class. I always looked at age. Chevy Troutman was young for his high school class. I knew he was going to be a solid player. That's where Jamie built his reputation, guys.
Well, I'll tell you, Jamie was thinking bright in a brilliant fashion right there because he made a great decision. A lot of guys get so wrapped up in recruiting when kids have to be at the top of the list, so one of the best is trying to find those diamonds, man. Like David Robinson, nobody really wanted him out of high school and became the player of the year at the Naval Academy.
Davidson can't get around Troutman.
Tim Duncan was another player. Dave Odom found him.
Strong drive by Petway. Again, the Tide attacking the bucket with a lot of success.
I'll tell you where they're getting success. Their perimeter players are playing well. Petway and certainly Shelton are really playing well. They're very active in that zone. That zone has been bothering Pittsburgh.
Look at the guy on the inside again. Troutman with a rare miss. And the rebound to Alabama. Well, Troutman looks like he could have a monster year. He's going to get a ton of touches with Lett and Zavaskis having departed from the Pittsburgh program. Troutman's going to be option number 1 inside.
Well, Zavaskis, they miss his range as a shooter. Has a tendency to open up the defense, spreads out the court when you got people that can make that wing jump shot.
Another near finish, but again, now Chuck Davis is going to go to the line. I've been impressed with all the moves he's been making. He's just been having trouble finishing.
That's the 5th one. I'll tell you, the 5th one on the inside. We're going to watch him right now. Feel right here, freeze it. See right here, he's trying to seal him off on the box. Then he wants to drop step that foot. He's going to drop step. See the drop step? There it is. Rotation over. Good help, but you got to convert that. When you become a polished player on the inside, you convert that, Mr. Schulman.
Well, Davis all last year, Dick, played a total of 86 minutes for Alabama. The other big guy who started, Evan Brock, played a total of 87 minutes the whole season. These guys are sophomores with barely any game experience, but they're going to learn on the job here quickly this season. Big rebound for Taft.
There's that zone with those long arms. Davidson inside. He covers the whole 3-second area. I mean, he's got the long wingspan. Look at him inside, 33. He covers that whole inside, spreads those arms out. Can't pass the ball to the interior.
6'10" with a wingspan of a guy bigger than 7 feet. There's
Nice.
Troutman inside. That's actually maybe a little bit beyond his comfort zone. Brown, tough jumper goes.
He's got to make shots. They said he really shot the ball well in the preseason practices. He was recruited by Rick Pitino, committed to Kentucky, and then Pitino left and went with the mega dollars to the Boston Celtics, and he went elsewhere, went to prep school.
Brown, a 5th-year senior in the Pittsburgh program after a year at prep school. So he got a ton of experience.
I'm really surprised at the execution of Alabama, considering they got so many new players. I mean, they are executing. Look at that. Very simple inside. You didn't see that last year, my friends, defensively with Pittsburgh. They would shut down that half-court game.
Chuck Davis has been a big story here in the first half. He's got 7 points now, and the Tide are back on top by 3.
You know, Pittsburgh led the nation. They were unbelievable. Actually was 5th in the nation, I'm sorry, in scoring the defense last year, 59.2.
It is out of bounds. As we step aside with 1:50 to play in the half, Alabama's up by 3. Some shoe stories when we come back. Carl Krauser of the Panthers and Antoine Petway of the Tide. Stick around. That's when we come back to the Garden after this. Early up 3 on Pittsburgh, late stages of the first half. We talked about how many kids from the Pitt program are from the New York City area, including starting point guard Carl Krauser from the Bronx, and he writes all kinds of inspirational sayings. See, there's Bronx, New York. He's got the initials of some people in his life. Only the strong survive at NYC. That's Krauser's game. Now, this was Petway's game last year. Those were his shoes last year, but Doris Burke is going to tell us where have the ruby red slippers gone?
They're gone but not forgotten, and they will be back. With the graduation of Erwin Dudley, he will become the crowd favorite this year. He's got to wear these. Those Nike Hyper Flights that we showed you moments ago were not available to him this trip. He hopes to have them before his next game. He certainly wants them back. That's a man of style, guys.
You mean you can't just buy those off the rack? Now, last year, I think he actually did walk into a shoe store and he found this, but now he's tried to order some more, and it's tough to come by those shoes. Apparently, those bright red shoes aren't so popular, Dick.
We got all over him about that. Oh, God, we got all over it. There's that active zone. He's going to stay in that until they can prove they can handle it. One way to beat the zone is beat it in transition.
Krauser, that's the guy probably that Alabama wants taking these long jumpers, not known for his outside shooting ability. Pittsburgh will get the ball with a fresh 35.
You know, you talk about this game here. It features two outstanding assistant coaches. You mentioned Barry Rorson, but what about Orlando Early from Alabama? Used to be on a Charlotte staff with Bobby Lutz. Fred Hill Jr., another great one down in Villanova.
Yeah.
Norm Roberts down there at Kansas does a great job. David Dickerson at Maryland. Johnny Dawkins. I mean, I can go on and on. Anthony Grant at Florida. Tom Moore at Connecticut. Wojciech now. Dougie used to play for the Naval Academy down at Michigan State. All these guys, people have no idea the hours they put in. There's so many others I haven't mentioned who deserve to be mentioned. They work. I mean, they work like 16 to 17 hours a day.
And how important they are not only to recruiting, but to game preparation as well. You go to a practice, and it's generally an assistant, right, Dick, who's in charge of scouting the opponent and really leading the team through the plays.
Writing up the scouting reports, evaluating.
Troutman inside again. Just the right man at the right place at the right time.
I tell you, he just knows how to score in the interior. Years ago, you don't remember the name, Nick Quick Workman. Nick the Quick Workman at Seton Hall. He was magical inside at every scoring move in the world as he led the nation in scoring. I was way before your time in the 60s.
Great hands for Troutman, just coming up with the loose ball and getting it up off the glass. He is on his way to a big night. Now 12 points and 5 rebounds already for Siobhan Troutman out of Williamsport, Pennsylvania, the home of the Little League World Series.
Yeah, the Little League World Series, a special time of the year. Hey, remember last night I said, whatever happened to John Sarcino line that he writes in USA Today to Bob Duquette? I got a call from Bob Duquette today. Tell me what's happened with him, the former Marquette coach.
Well, go on.
Well, I'll tell you.
All right, don't keep us in suspense.
You know what he's doing right now?
What?
He told me, he said, Dick, I'm down at Palm Beach, Florida. I'm the piano man. I play for all groups, senior groups, parties, you name it. I'm the piano man, and I love it. Bob Duquette.
Krauser steps in, misses the long two. Loose ball back to the Panthers. 30 seconds to go in the half. Brown has that shot blocked partially. Tapped with a miss, and then Troutman commits the foul. Coming up at halftime with Reese Davis, Digger, Jay, and Steve. Some intriguing matchups as we look ahead to the regular season 2003-2004. Teams who are under the gun already. And live, the coaches in our second game of the doubleheader tonight. Mark Few of Gonzaga and Phil Martelli of St. Joseph's. Two of the more entertaining and outstanding coaches in America.
I would like to ask Steve Lavin a question if I was up there. I would like him to break down what Jamie Dixon's going through, going from the role of being the assistant in a successful program and take it over and the pressure you face like he had to do in stepping in to replace Jim Herrick at UCLA.
This free throw gives the final possession of the half to Pittsburgh in a 24-24 tie.
That zone defense has been a big plus for Alabama. We have not seen a fast break layup by Pittsburgh in transition.
Brown, the three not there, and the half will come to a close. The Panthers could not buy an outside shot in the first half as we go to the break, tied at 24 between Alabama and Pittsburgh. At a game one of our doubleheader tonight, the Coaches versus Cancer Classic here in New York City. Doris Burke standing by with Mark Godfrey, the head coach of the Tide.
Mark, you came in tonight with so many questions. Assess Chuck Davis's first 20 minutes.
Well, I thought he played pretty good. Played hard. You know, we missed a couple bunnies there right around the bucket. But I love our effort. We're playing hard, and we just need to convert a few more things around the basket and get some more rebounds. You know, they're a big team getting some rebounds on us, but I like our guys' effort. They're playing hard.
Chevy Troutman's hurt you inside. How do you adjust to him?
Well, we got to put a body on him. We got to find him a little bit more and on the glass. He's got a couple offensive rebound baskets, old-fashioned three-point plays. Those will hurt us.
Good luck in the second half, Mark. Dan, back to you.
All right, Doris, thank you. Coming up on the halftime report in this 24-24 tie with Troutman doing just what Mark Godfrey was bothered about. Pittsburgh came into this game, I would think, heavily favored. A lot of experience back, although they lost some key players, tied at 24. Couldn't buy an outside shot.
Well, you got to make perimeter shots. They're 0 for 11. I mean, you and I could go out there right now. I'm 64, and I could knock down a three. 0 for 11. You got to make that three against the 2-3 zone. I thought the zone utilized by Alabama was very effective. It made them shoot from the perimeter inside. They're getting some good play, Pittsburgh, from Troutman. But the bottom line is I also thought the execution of Alabama was superb. For new players to be able to execute against a veteran team defensively that is an outstanding defensive team in Pittsburgh, I thought that's an A+ for Alabama.
Our game track, let's look inside, and we will focus on Siobhan Troutman. He is so good around the basket, as we mentioned, shot 72% last year on the season, and he is just a load inside.
He's so tough to handle. Once he catches the ball inside, he's very strong physically. He protects the basketball well, Dan. He knows how to use his body. He seals off exceptionally well on the inside. I should take a look. Look at that 0 for 11. I mean, come on now. That's embarrassing. They said, please don't show that. 0 for 11 shooting the three. 1 for 4 is not much better.
Well, Pitt's got to make some adjustments in the second half. Doris Burke's going to tell us what they're going to be. Doris?
Well, on the defensive end, they talked about transition defense, doing a better job running from offense to defense and making sure that they check from inside out. And the second thing is make shots. I said, is 0 for 11. Are you shooting too many threes? No, we just have to make shots. We're doing a pretty good job of getting open looks against the zone. It's a matter of making them look good when we get them. Guys.
All right, Doris, thank you. The best three-point shooter for Pittsburgh last year was Donatas Zavaskas, who has graduated. He shot 44% from beyond the arc last year. Carl Krauser didn't shoot a lot from the outside last year, but did shoot 39%, a very good percentage, but he is 0 for 5 tonight. Jerron Brown 0 for 3, Julius Page 0 for 2, and Yuri Dimitris 0 for 1.
You know, Carl Krauser can be really pressing in his own little way. Told me he had so many friends and family going to be gathered here tonight. Played at Stevenson High School. That high school produced one of the greats in college basketball, Ed Pinckney, who was a star in a Villanova team that pitched that perfect game, Don Larson style, Rolly Massimino in 1985.
They shot 78% in that game against Georgetown to win the national championship.
I miss seeing Rolly Mass. He was one of the real characters on the sideline in the Big East.
0 for 12 from three-point range for the Panthers tonight.
It's starting to get interesting, a little 0 for 12. I mean, I'm telling you, I could shoot like that.
Brock with a miss and Page with a weak side rebound. You've got 15-foot range, nothing more. I've seen your act out of the floor before we go on the air.
You saw me today. I was shooting today. I was really on fire.
You're money in the paint, but I don't like your outside shot anymore.
Got no range, man. No legs. 64. I got no legs.
Brown inside and a foul committed by the Tide. Don't forget, tomorrow night ESPN and ESPN2 have a couple of great college football games in both Pittsburgh and Alabama. The two teams we're seeing at hoops tonight, they'll both be involved. It's Pitt and West Virginia in the Backyard Brawl, 7 Eastern here on ESPN2. Third-ranked LSU and Alabama at 7:45 over on ESPN. College football on ESPN. Every game a must-win.
You know, they alluded to at halftime when he spoke to Doris Burke about missing all those layups, and he was right. They missed, I know, at least 5 opportunities inside Alabama.
Troutman can't finish, but he was bumped hard and will go to the line. And boy, you can just see this Pittsburgh offense is going to be different from last year with the changes, and you can just see Troutman getting a ton of touches this season.
Yeah, he's going to get the touches inside. He's wide open. I'd give him the ball every time when there's space, when there's separation. The guy that's got to get going for Jamie Dixon is Mr. Page. Mr. Page has got to really put in some points on the board. He's only got a deuce thus far.
Troutman misses the first. Page averaged better than 12 points per game last year, was third team All Big East a year ago, and again is one of the phenomenal athletes in all of college basketball.
He's one of my slam jam bam specialists, along with Hakeem Warwick from out of Syracuse, Langford out of Kansas, keeping an name of Rob Sanders at Providence, a high riser.
Yes, he is.
David Lee, ever see him jump down at Florida, another high riser. They're members of my all slam jam bam team.
We saw a couple of guys last night who might be on that team in a year or two. Damian Mason from Marquette. Carney from Memphis can jump out of the gym.
He's going to be an outstanding player. John Calipari's got a good one. I don't think he knows how good he can be, Carney.
Still plenty of time on the shot clock for the Tide. Down a point to Pittsburgh here early in the second half. Knocked away, and it stays in bounds, and Krauser's going the distance.
And that'll help your percentage. Make that little layup. Good steal. Stepped in a passing lane.
So Pittsburgh up by 3. Alabama has yet to score a point here in the second half.
I'll tell you, Pittsburgh's done a pretty good job defensively, other than a few breakdowns on the inside, on the baseline, where normally they're very physical.
Pitt closing out a little bit more quickly now on Alabama. Tough drive. by Shelton, and he will go to the line. Look at the break, Dick, that Pittsburgh got, that Krauser got on that last deflection as he knocks it away, and it hits the official and stays in bounds.
Well, the official is in play. Ball touches the official. It's good. Krauser takes advantage of it, gets the steal, and gets the layup.
Meanwhile, Shelton knocks down the first. We alluded to it early in the first half. Ernest Shelton shooting free throws right now. 24 seconds into the first exhibition game for Alabama. Went running to the bench, and Mark Gottfried said, "What's wrong? What's happening here?" And he dislocated his right ring finger. You might have been able to see he's got tape around his ring and his pinky fingers. His ring finger, Dick, above the knuckle was sticking straight to the right over his pinky, and they thought he'd broken it and he'd be out for weeks. He dislocated it. They were able to pop it back in during the game, and he went on to score 22 points in that game, and apparently can play through the injury.
I tell you, talk about kids playing through the injury. I thought the theme last night was the stardom of guys like Diener and certainly Downey, two perimeter players who really showed a lot of guts and heart. We talked about Downey 7 days ago, 8 days ago, having an appendix problem, had surgery, and talk about Diener with the knee problem.
Davidson on the screen. More great execution by Alabama.
Nice job of executing downstream, freeze him at the free throw line. I'm telling you now, remember I'm telling you, Davidson is going to be a special player at Alabama.
Just a freshman. This is his debut. He's out of Atlanta, and he's played well in limited minutes here tonight.
Look at that wingspan. Look at those arms. 33. Are you kidding me? I mean, you can't teach that. You cannot teach that.
Baseline drive by Page, and a foul underneath. And this is when Page can really be dangerous. When he puts the ball on the floor and wants to get to the rim, there aren't many in college basketball who can keep him away from it.
You're 100% right when you talk about his explosiveness. Davidson came out of Wheeler High School, Atlanta, Georgia, won the state championship there. You look at the SEC makeup right now. Obviously, it's Kentucky, Florida again, but right there, Mississippi State, and certainly you got to think about LSU with Brandon Bass and a host of young players. Auburn will be good again, but they had a tough break losing Monroe, the point guard.
I don't know if somebody's lost a contact or what they're looking for down in the paint. And Duke Getzel, one of the officials, has found something, but it looks like they're just wiping up some moisture.
The officials tonight have done a solid job. Larry Rose, Lucky, and certainly Duke Getzel. We haven't mentioned their name all night. I told them at halftime.
It's good for them.
I said that's the best thing that's happened for you. We haven't mentioned your name.
Maybe checking for blood, and they were looking over Siobhan Troutman to see if he was bleeding at all. Wherever it's coming from, nobody seems to be able to find the source of the problem right now, so they're going to play on. Hey, you just talked a lot about the SEC, but there's one guy you didn't mention that you mentioned last night. Give me your odds-on favorite, or at least a contender for SEC Player of the Year that a lot of people aren't thinking of.
Oh, Matt Frigie, standing down at Vanderbilt. I didn't mention Vanderbilt, and yet with their experience, they can be a factor, especially down there at home. Speaking of Vanderbilt, to my right, one of my favorite people in all of intercollegiate athletics, C.M. Newton. I can't tell you enough, Dan, what an unbelievable force he has been in the athletic world. He and people like certainly Gene Corrigan, Dave Gavitt, who I rated in my book, #1, the most influential in the 25 years that I've been on television, the way he created for television the Big East.
Here's Davis. Look at him just backing Troutman down and draws another foul. And again, Chuck Davis really came to play here tonight. Every time he touches the ball, he does something positive with it.
I'm going to tell you positive, a great move that was done as we're watching the ball go inside to Davis. Now he's going to back him down. He's backing away, and he draws the contact. A great move by Mark Gottfried. You know what the move was? Hiring Tom Asbury as an assistant coach. Tom Asbury has a wealth of knowledge, head coach at Kansas State, Pepperdine. They got to know each other through his days when he got the Pepperdine job. Obviously, Jim Herrick had that job prior. And I'm so happy that Jim is back in basketball using his talents as you look at Asbury, who has a brilliant mind and will be a great asset every day teaching and coaching kids in the fundamentals of how to play the game.
That last foul, by the way, was on Siobhan Troutman, his third, and the leading scorer in this game for Pittsburgh. Troutman has gone to the bench.
Seen a lot of guys do that now. George Blaney at Connecticut, former Seton Hall and Holy Cross coach. You think about Steve Robinson, now there at North Carolina. David Hobbs, Kentucky, from out of Alabama right here. Pete Herman, ex-Navy coach, now at Georgia. I think it's great that those guys and coaches take advantage of hiring them to use their wealth of knowledge.
Alabama clinging to a 1-point lead here for the first game of 2 we've got for you tonight here on ESPN2. Gonzaga and St. Joseph's, number 12 against number 18. The feature game of this 4-game 2-day event. That's our finale, our next game here tonight.
Tough pass, can't make that pass. Not a good look right there by Brown.
Petway leads the Tide up the floor, and it gets inadvertently tripped at the other end as the Panthers commit another foul. It'll be on Page, and it's his second. They'll make it on Krauser, his second.
There's a little change of direction. There's the little trip, the little bump. Hey, what if Larry Fitzgerald, these guys are watching? I wonder if they're watching right now. One of those Pitt Panthers, one of my favorite players in college football. Fitzgerald, I love him. I want to be his agent, man. I want to be his agent. He's got great hands, explosive.
It's off Petway, out of bounds to Pittsburgh. And they got to keep playing, guys. Keep playing. It's the under 16 timeout, not the at 16 timeout. Both sets of players were headed to the bench, but we still got some basketball here.
You know, you think about young players leaving early, making mistakes. What about Rod Grizzard when he left 2 years ago? Just like Omar Cook should have been in college.
Well, and Mark Godfrey talked to us before the game. It's not just that they leave, it's how long they have to decide whether or not they're going to leave during the summer. And the program sits around not knowing whether or not they've got to go out and get another player in their place. McCarroll is called for the offensive foul. Let's go to Doris Burke.
Well, Dick, you mentioned earlier in the basketball game that C.M. Newton is pinch hitting on the Alabama radio broadcast team. He also at one time was the head coach at the University of Alabama. When we come back, we will talk about perhaps his most significant recruit in his time as head coach of the university. We'll be back after this.
To get the offense going here tonight. It's Alabama 29, Pittsburgh 28. 4 minutes change into the second half here in New York City. Let's go back over to Doris Burke. Doris.
Thanks, Dan. C.M. Newton, probably one of the most recognizable faces in all of intercollegiate athletics. He's worn many hats. But in 1969, he had a very special recruit at the University of Alabama as the head coach there. Wendell Hudson, who is now the associate athletic director at the university, became the first African-American basketball player on full scholarship. This was 6 years after one of the most pivotal moments in all of that time of history. Governor George Wallace declared 6 years earlier that no African-American would attend the university. Wendell became that man. He became two-time SEC Player of the Year, 1972 and 1973. I asked him what was the toughest part. He said, honestly, I think it was harder on Coach Newton. I grew up 55 miles from campus. I knew the good and the bad of growing up in Alabama. I was 18 years of old. Coach Newton kind of laughed when I told him that story. He said, well, I'll tell you, it was difficult on my daughter. She was going to be a senior in high school. She took a lot of hits. He said, honestly, I believe that Wendell had some lonely nights at his time, but went on to achieve great things. I guess it's safe to say both very courageous men, guys.
Doris, thank you. Great story.
It was great stories today. Listen to both of them share the stories in those early days.
Antoine Petway's got a chance for a 4-point play.
Big three right there. Foul by Krauser, who was trying to sneak out. Godfrey's got to be happy with that, baby. There's Petway going to knock it down. Comes off the screen, steps out, shoots it from NBA range, draws contact, and goes to the line. Look at the great emotion. But you know that C.M. Newton today and Wendell Hudson at the shoot-around were sharing many stories in those early days. But C.M. was such an ambassador when he coached as an athletic director. Also hired Tubby Smith and hired as well Rick Pitino.
One other thing that ESPN's doing this year is part of the 25th anniversary of college basketball on the network as Page misses. And then we get a foul underneath as we're going to pick an all-time team over the last 25 years, a 25th anniversary team from each major conference. And C.M. Newton is part of the committee that's going to pick the 25th anniversary team from the SEC.
I tell you, that's so much fun to do. I know when Dick Weiss, who I worked with on my book from out of Daily News, we picked a bunch of teams in my 25 years and how they played. And I'll tell you, there's so many players during that period of time, very difficult to do.
And Dick Weiss is on the committee to help pick the teams from both the Big East and the Atlantic 10.
Well, I'll tell you, a great choice because the guy is a basketball junkie.
Yes,
he knows the game inside out, knows every player, every coach. That zone has been really effective.
You got to think these Alabama kids are getting more confident by the minute right now, the way this game is going. Brown right down the middle with the miss. The follow, no good for Taft, but he keeps after it and banks it home. Now Davidson got in the air and got lucky as he found Petway. Taft got back in a hurry defensively and forced Davidson to pass the ball.
I tell you, Brown and Page have to put points on the board for Pittsburgh. But saying all that, they still, right now, in a situation only down 3.
Taft reaches around and is called for the foul. His first at the other end. A couple of rebounds, finally resulting in a bucket. He's got 9 rebounds in this game.
Wow.
And just a freshman.
Talking about freshmen, they got some good recruits already committed. Barry Rawson and Jamie Dixon. They got Mr. Keith Benjamin coming in, a guard, a 2-guard from out of Mount Vernon High School, and they produced so many outstanding players like Ben Gordon, Rodney and Scooter McRae, Ronald Ramon coming in from All Hallows High School in New York City, about 3 blocks north of Yankee Stadium.
And again, Taft from Xaverian High, where Barry Rorson's from, and they've already got a junior, Michael Davis from Xaverian High, committed for 2005. Siobhan Troutman's going to check back into the game now for Pittsburgh, despite the 3 fouls, because without Troutman, to be honest with you, there hasn't been a whole lot going on for Pitt offensively.
Well, you know, Brown and Page combined have only 7 points thus far. And those 2 guys are veterans who got to put some points on the board.
Troutman's got 13.
We sort of expected him to be a factor inside. He has a way of getting free, an uncanny ability to get free on the interior.
Another miss on a 3, but another offensive rebound. The opportunistic Jerron Brown makes it a 1-point game.
That's one of the real negatives about a zone. There are no blockout assignments, basically. You get into lanes.
So the Alabama lead, 5 just moments ago, now down to 1, and the steal.
Telegraph that, baby. That was a Marconi special.
Page back to Krauser, and Pittsburgh leads.
And that's Krauser. That's his game at best. The up-tempo game. The Oakland Zoo would jump with joy over that down there in Pittsburgh. They got a beautiful facility.
Oh, do they ever. Peterson Event Center.
Yep. There it is. The bounce inside. There's Krauser with the steal. Catches it, scores, and our own Beano Cook jumps with joy. Beano, the press, I tell you, the press is named after him.
That's
the room,
right, the press room.
Believe it. I mean, unbelievable. I got to bow down and kiss his ring when you walk into that press room.
Krauser at the line. One interesting thing, Krauser may be the most significant player for Pittsburgh this season because of who he's taking over for, Brandon Knight.
Right.
And Krauser likes to get it and go a little bit more than Brandon Knight did. And this team, I mean, they like to run their stuff, but is Krauser going to run the stuff, or is he going to get it and go?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. He's trying to execute a half-court game as well, but the bottom line, it's become his team at the point guard slot, and they need him to really be effective.
34-33. Pittsburgh is back on top. We'll step aside for a moment and come on back with more second-half action from the Coaches versus Cancer Classic after this. Fans from the East Coast, but these are 2 outstanding basketball programs that deserve a little bit more attention, a little bit more hype, and we've got Dick Vitale on the job to hype them up here tonight.
I don't hype anybody. Are you kidding me? They better be able to play if they want to get some hype.
Davis with no call gets back the loose ball, misses the jumper, but Alabama runs down the loose ball again.
Alabama much more competitive than I thought they would be here tonight. I really mean that. I thought with the inexperience they had, I thought that Pittsburgh would have its way. And Mark Gottfried told me, he said, we got some skilled players. They're just inexperienced. Mark did such a great job when he played down at Alabama in the 3 years that he ran the point. 23-10, 24-9, 28-5. Got upset in 1987 in the Sweet 16. Got beat by Providence, baby. Coached by Rick Pitino, and Billy Donovan was knocking down threes.
Did by 1 over Mark Gottfried's Crimson Tide right now. Petway, the former walk-on, now the senior starter at the point. And you got freshmen and sophomores playing some big-time roles for Alabama here tonight. Winston, a sophomore. There's Petway, the senior. The 3 rattles out. Another offensive rebound for Alabama.
Give them second opportunities. Look at the patience they're demonstrating on the offensive end.
And
nice
laying it in is Davis.
Davis very effective inside in the post. Has some up and under moves. Has good head fakes on the interior. When you look at Davis and you watch the development of Davidson, and if Brock can start giving him solid minutes, they can be tough up front.
Long jumper will go down, and Pittsburgh is back on top. Carl Krauser makes it 36-35 Panthers.
Krauser has the ability to score. Kennedy Winston's only got a deuce tonight.
Rock with a handoff, and now a travel called on the Tide. Back over to Pittsburgh as we step aside for another timeout. It's been close throughout between Bama and Pitt. Alabama hanging in with some good offensive execution. Chuck Davis, a sophomore who didn't play a whole lot last year. Dick, I know he's impressed you with what he's done here tonight.
Take a look. First of all, great spacing here, and I think you get the ball inside to him. There's the spacing, 15 feet apart. Now catches it, frees it. Now right here, he's setting him up to drop step this way on that foot. To take that foot reverse. See how he drop steps? He hooks him on the inside. They work on that every day in practice. Most teams across America will utilize the single reverse and a double reverse drop steps on the interior. UB Brown was a master giving lectures at that at the 5-star basketball camp.
And that's a big, strong, experienced defender in Siobhan Troutman that he's making all of these moves against.
He's doubled his career high already. He's doubled his career high.
Yeah, the most points he had in any game in his freshman season was 5, and he's already got 10 here tonight. And again, as you said, he had 2 or 3 other opportunities that he just couldn't quite finish in the first half, or he'd be having a huge night, and Alabama would be in the lead.
Well, Alabama just now made an adjustment, went to the man-to-man. Let's see how they can handle him on the inside. Handle Troutman in the man-to-man situation.
You surprised they switched?
Yeah, I mean, we're so effective out of that zone, but I just think maybe it's to give him a little different look for a moment.
Krauser a long 3, and there it goes. Pittsburgh struggling all night from outside. That's their first made 3 in 14 opportunities.
I tell you, Krauser knocks it down. He has scoring ability out of that point guard slot.
Shelton trapped in the corner, finds Winston. Kennedy Winston's had a quiet night with just 2 points. He is coming back from arthroscopic knee surgery a couple of months ago.
He told me he's only at about 85% right now. Had the operation September 11th.
Davis looking to try to take over. Chuck Davis now with a dozen. What a story he is tonight.
He's building up confidence with each possession. So is Krauser right now, has their last 7 points.
Demetrius Smith, a 6'2 senior, is into the game now for Alabama. He's the guy guarding Krauser, number 23 for the Tide, as Krauser tries to turn the corner and gets fouled before the shot.
Starting to see the Krauser right now. Davis show. Good. Davis says, give me the rock, man. Bring the ball inside to me. Look at Chuck Davis says, get the rock to me on the interior. Little jump hook in the lane.
You know, now with Morris on him, he's given up 3 inches in height and 50 pounds in weight, but he doesn't care if it's Troutman or Morris or anybody. He's going to the hoop.
I tell you, I like the way he maneuvers on the interior. He's got good head fakes, ball fakes. All you young kids out there, learn to utilize that ball fake and that head fake.
Krauser's starting to pile up some numbers all of a sudden. He's got a dozen points.
He's got their last 8.
They get 9 in a row for Krauser, 13 on the night, and a 4-point lead for Pittsburgh.
He's at home right now, New York City.
Yep.
New York, man. He wants to shine in the Big Apple.
Well, the Panthers have a lot of experience in this building, playing St. John's, playing here in the Big East tournament, so this is like a second home to them. For more on Krauser, let's go to Doris.
Well, from the moment he stepped on campus, Krauser and Brandon Knight, their battles were legendary. He said freshman year, when he was a redshirt, we were going head-to-head in Fitzgerald Fieldhouse. Brandon comes down, drains a long 3, and says, welcome to the Big East, big time. He said, I went right back at him, put it between my legs, and hit him with my teardrop shot. He said, I said to him, welcome to Magic's world. His nickname, Black Magic. He's got that special flair about him, guys.
He really does have that charisma, too, when you speak to him. He's got a lot of confidence, and it's building right now. Nice look.
Troutman gets a couple of Tide players in the air. They recover to block it, but Torrey Morris makes quite a statement there.
I tell you, Torrey Morris on the inside comes up with the loose ball and knows how to finish.
The ball was deflected back over the timeline. That's why there was no over and back.
Now does experience prevail? We got experience against inexperience. +5 now, Pittsburgh. I'll tell you what a year they had last year. When you think about Ben Holland and the job he's done, he's doing a heck of a job already in the recruiting wars down there at UCLA, signing 2 of the best 20 players in America.
Well, what a finish by Morris. 6'10", about 280, had a 14-point, 13-rebound game in an exhibition game for Pittsburgh. And again, he was a backup last year, played about 15 minutes a game behind Ontario Leg. But the starter's job in the middle is his to lose right now. Petway, a good look for 3. And Winston with the offensive rebound.
It's a third opportunity coming back with those offensive rebounds. I like those long, lean guys like Davidson. You're going to watch that kid next year. Look at backdoor cut.
Well, they're running some stuff, aren't they? Tomorrow night, both ESPN and ESPN2 have college football action for you, and it's involving the two schools you're seeing here in Hoops tonight. Number 16, Pittsburgh taking on West Virginia in the backyard of Brawl here on the Deuce, and then over on ESPN, 7:45 Eastern Time, number 3, LSU and Alabama. Meanwhile, trouble for Pittsburgh as Carl Krauser has picked up his 4th foul of the night. Last year, if Knight got in foul trouble, Krauser took over at the point. This year, if Krauser gets in foul trouble, Jamie Dixon turns to Antonio Graves, a true freshman out of Mansfield, Ohio, who has just come into the game, number 22 for Pitt.
They're going to hope to steal right now, maybe get 4 minutes out of him and get Krauser back on the floor with 5 minutes to go. As you look at Graves.
A late signee. They just offered him a scholarship in August. A scholarship opened up because of another player with the school, and the kid felt agreed that maybe he'd be better off somewhere else. So in August, all of a sudden, they find themselves with a scholarship. And Graves was thinking about going to prep school for a year, but when Pittsburgh came along with a scholarship, he decided to go here. And he is Carl Krauser's backup at the point.
A step to that basketball. Good job by Page going to snatch that ball. He looks to me like he could be a great defensive back.
Yeah, definitely. And now here's Graves getting a chance to run the show.
Back in that zone, came out of the man-to-man, went to the zone.
Graves for 3. Troutman with a rebound, gives it up. Demetrius with a 16-footer not there. Rebound tied.
Got to back it up. Need the high percentage shot right here.
Petway going to take it inside and draws the hard foul. These Alabama players, time after time, driving to the basket, not worried about the contact.
Look, Russ, he's trying to be a coach right now. He wants to be a coach. That's great when you see that right there. That's great when you see a kid involved in the game, still there, even though he's not playing. He's the quarterback. He's the guy that's the extension of the coach.
So the quarterback's out, and the guy that we said earlier could probably be a tight end, Siobhan Troutman. He's going out as well with his 4th foul. So 2 key players on the bench for the Panthers.
You know, it's really interesting when you look at Pittsburgh and preparing for the game. They're 28-5 last year, but they were only 3-3 in games decided by 5 points or less. And a lot of that can get down to free throw shooting.
They're looking at a very difficult conference schedule in the Big East because you play 3 teams twice and every other team once. They got to get it over, and they do. And they're playing Syracuse, Notre Dame, and Connecticut twice. Those 4 teams are all going to play each other in extra time to try to generate some good matchups. But out of conference, it's not that tough of a schedule for Pitt, and they've got a ton of home games. Get a look at this. 20 of their games will be played at the Peterson Event Center this year.
Wow, that's not too bad when you step in as a coach like Jamie Dixon. He better thank Ben Holland for that. 20 home games. I didn't know that. Great research. They got some games with Florida State and Georgia. I know they play down there as well.
Florida State, a program on the rise, right?
Oh, big time. Stock going up, man. Stock going up when you think about Leonard Hamilton. As you take a look at here, key non-conference games. I mean, those are key non-conference games. But the bottom line is their status. They should win those games. Georgia's in right now a total rebuilding situation under Dennis Felton.
McCarroll at the line for the Panthers. 1 of 2. The tip. Yes. Torrey Morris, another big play for Pittsburgh.
That size inside pays off. Pays big dividends.
Demetrius and McCarroll in the game right now for the Panthers because Krauser and Troutman are on the bench, each with 4 fouls. Here's Davidson, 18-footer. Not there. Rebound, Jerron Brown.
Experienced player. Brown, one of those role players last year.
Almost throws it away, and Graves has gone to the bench. There's no true point guard on the floor right now for Pittsburgh, but Demetrius and Page and Brown all have some experience at the point, and they're almost interchangeable right now.
You know, experienced team had a great run, won 11 in a row before they lost to Marquette last year in the NCAA tournament. Sweet 16.
Julius Page doesn't like that call, Dick. Pittsburgh playing through the foul trouble, up by 4, but the guys on the bench still doing their job, cheering on the guys on the floor. Pitt hanging on. Classic. And both these coaches, Mark Gottfried, learning about some new players, and a new coach, new head coach at least, Jamie Dixon, learning about his team here tonight.
Well, it's Mayloc's time right now for Jamie Dixon. He can tell me all he wants that he's not nervous, trying to get that first win. It would be special. You want to go back on campus, you want to be the big man on campus, you want to be able to strut there this weekend and say, look, I got the first win against an SEC team, against Alabama, not against Cupcake City. But I'll tell you right now, it's not easy. Alabama has really exceeded the expectations that I had in terms of what to expect here. Very young, very inexperienced, but has some solid talent.
Chuck Davis in particular has shown a lot of heart tonight, the way that he's played inside. He's on the bench right now. Brock and Davidson are the two big guys on the floor for Alabama. This is Davidson. Brock with an offensive rebound and draws a foul. That's been a huge story here in the last 7 or 8 minutes. You don't expect a strong, physical, experienced team like Pittsburgh to get it beaten on the glass like they are here tonight.
Especially Pittsburgh, who really has been an outstanding rebounding team. But they're so active, the Alabama kids. You see them right here on the interior. Pittsburgh really did it last year with defense and also with rebounding. +7 margin last season. They got to get some touches though right now for Kennedy. They got to get Winston some touches. I mean, he can score.
At the line, Evan Brock, sophomore, left-hander.
His dad met him tonight. Dad played for the Globetrotters. Very proud of his son. He thinks that his son's going to have a big year next year. He said he's just feeling his way out right now. And he get a lot stronger physically.
Yep. You saw Krauser is getting set to check back in for Pittsburgh. He's got 4 fouls. This goes back a few minutes, and this was number 4 on Krauser on that well-executed play by Alabama as he just couldn't keep up with Petway. Brown to Torrey Morris. Nice drive to the bucket by the big guy.
Nice play by Brown to create the opportunity for Torrey Morris, who has improved. He has become a little bit more offensively skilled.
Looks a lot more agile this year than he was last year as well.
And not fragile.
No, definitely not.
And he could be hostile. He looks mobile.
Yes, he does. 4-point lead for Pittsburgh. Here comes Shelton off the screen. They'd love to get him going. Long three-pointer with a hand in his face. Long rebound, and Petway runs it down for the tie.
Nice hustle play by Petway to get that ball back. Give it to Kennedy. Give it to him inside.
Winston gives it back to Brock. And maybe Winston over the back right there. Yes, it is.
They're trying to break the press, swing the ball away from the trap. Bring the ball down the sideline. Brown did a great job finding the open Morris. Key against the press is to bring the ball away from the trapping area. And you got to step to the basketball. Did an excellent job of ball reversal.
Yeah, you talked about Jerron Brown, the guy going to the line right now for Pittsburgh, and he doesn't necessarily light it up any night or wow you on any given night. But at the end of the night, he's got points, he's got rebounds, he's got assists, he's played good defense. He's just one of those guys who does everything that a coach needs you to do.
And that's win. And they know how to win. Won the Big East tournament last year. Blew out Connecticut right here in the Garden.
They just wore them down. They played a great game that night. Brandon Knight wasn't healthy in that game. Brock being guarded hard out on the perimeter by Demetrius. Now here's Davidson. Davis with a long jumper. What a big night for Chuck Davis.
Hey, what a year this kid can have. He's had really a breakout party today. His high last year was 5. He's been effective down in the low box.
He's got 14 right now. Krauser trying to turn the corner. 6 minutes to go. 2-point game.
I think Krauser's the kind of kid that'll love to see the man-to-man.
Demetrius on a feed from Taft. Misses the long jumper.
Davis with another rebound added to his stats. He wants the ball inside. He said, man, give me the rock inside. Look for him down in the low box. Dump it inside to him. Dump it to
there
Davis.
He is. A little bit too far away from the basket to make something happen. Or is he?
Not really. It's his night. He wants to star on Broadway, man. Farrah Fawcett couldn't star on Broadway. They shut it down. But he's going to star on Broadway.
Chuck Davis has more than tripled his previous career high. He's got 16 points.
Tell you, Chuck Davis shows he can shoot the little jump shot from the foul line area, and then he shows his ability to get to the rack. As he steps out, he's going to catch the ball, shoots that 18-foot jump shot, and now he's going to show his ability to get to the basket. Here he is right now in a triple threat position. You can drive, you can shoot or pass. There he is. Nice little drive. Does an excellent job. Good first step. The key is the first step. Might have got a little walk right there. Might have got away with a little walk.
You know, I asked Mark Godfrey a couple of days ago about these inexperienced inside guys. How do you feel about your inside guys? And I'm quoting Mark Godfrey here. He said, I feel buck naked with my inside guys. He said, I just don't know. They're not old enough. They're not experienced enough. They're not strong enough. They're not. Well, tonight, Chuck Davis is. He's been everything here tonight.
Well, excuse me, but I do not want to see Mr. Godfrey.
I'm just quoting. Don't shoot the messenger.
I don't want to look naked, I can tell you that.
Tied at 48 thanks to Chuck Davis, who's got 16 points here tonight. In the first game of his sophomore season, he didn't score more than 5 in any game in his freshman season, playing behind guys like Irwin Dudley and Kenny Walker.
Yeah, total 19 points all of last year.
Here's Brown, pull-up jumper. And Brock runs it down. Now Shelton's off to the races, but he's all alone.
Want to back it up, didn't have an opportunity.
Don't forget our second game here tonight. What a matchup it should be between Gonzaga and St. Joe's. That game follows this game tonight right here on ESPN2. More on that matchup. Here's Doris.
Well, good news for the Zags. Rony Toriev, who was questionable coming into tonight's game, has been warming up behind the curtain here at Madison Square Garden. He told Mark Few, I can't wait to get out there. He is expected to play, Dick Vitale. I can't wait to see how excited you are about him.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Doris. He's a solid player on the interior and certainly a pro prospect. You throw in Blake Stepp as well on a perimeter. They got 2 NBA potential players, and then you throw in a host of new kids. I can't wait to see Earl Knight. On the other side, we may see one of the premier backcourts in all of America in Jameer Nelson and Delonte West. Nelson's getting all the PR, but trust me when I tell you, West can flat out play.
A great opportunity for these two great programs to get some exposure that they deserve for what they've accomplished in recent years.
They need that.
Page buries a 3.
They need that. He's got to be the veteran. He's got to step up. He's got to put points on the board.
Now here's the go-to guy, Davis. And it's out of bounds. It will stay with Alabama. Davis wanting the ball every time down the floor, as Page figures to do at the other end.
Well, Page finally knocks down that 3. Something they've struggled with. Look at that, 2 for 17.
Yet they have the lead. And ripping down another rebound is Taft. He's got double figures, 10 rebounds in his first collegiate game.
In a very quiet way.
Yep. Page again. Taft has 11 rebounds.
And there's Mr. Taft. I'll tell you one thing, Page told me before the game. He said he can be a monster for us, Dickie B. He can be a monster.
I'm telling you, I'm watching Chris Wilcox here. He reminds me so much of him with his size and his ability to run the floor and get up and down.
Mr. Davis, where has he been? Hey, Mr. Godfrey, how did you play that guy last year?
How many points did he have all of last year?
19.
He's got 18 tonight.
Wow. Against Pittsburgh. A top 20 team.
Yeah, and one of the best defensive teams in the country the last couple of years.
That's been their strength. Their strength has been their defensive ability.
Krauser for 3. He knew it. You could see he felt it as soon as he released that one.
I'll tell you, look good shooting that as well. See, he's going to give him a different kind of look on a perimeter. He's going to give him a guy with some flash and some scoring ability. Oh, yes, he said, Jamie, come on. He's getting the crowd going. Krauser here in New York City.
And Pittsburgh up 5. As we celebrate our 25th season of college basketball, it's time to flash back into the ESPN archives.
Picked off by Miller, goes ahead, lanes on the other wing. He finds yeah! Send it in, Jerome! We're gonna be a while.
One of the all-time moments and one of the all-time calls. Our buddy Bill Raftery with "Send it in, Jerome" on that Jerome Lane dunk from 15 years ago. You know, Chris Taft might break a backboard or two before he's done, don't you think?
I'll tell you, big and strong and tough, tenacious on the inside. What's that, a dozen rebounds for him?
I think so. 11 or 12 rebounds, and Boy, he's making it happen at both ends. 11 rebounds now for Chris Taft. 4 points on the night, but those two were big right there to extend the Pittsburgh lead. Dan Shulman, Dick Vitale, Doris Burke with you here at Madison Square Garden. Game 1 of 2 tonight. Game 3 of 4 overall at the Coaches versus Cancer Classic, which over the last 8 years has raised more than $2 million. A joint venture between the National Association of Basketball Coaches and the American Cancer Society.
Now shot selection becomes really big. We saw it last night. The edge went certainly to Marquette and to Wake Forest down the stretch, taking a high percentage shot. That's how you win basketball games. That's how you go to that locker room where it's a winner's locker room. Taking the high percentage shot. That means Troutman on the inside.
Last year, not many teams in America used the clock with a lead late better than Pittsburgh did, and they've run it down to 10 here as they start to get into their stuff. It's Krauser.
Doing a lot of similar things that Ben Holland certainly had.
Krauser just backing his way down to the basket, got the shot on the rim but missed, and now here comes the tide.
Now you got to wonder right now with young and experienced kids if they have patience.
That's Petway, a senior, not showing any patience. Offensive rebound and a putback for Emmett Thomas, and it's now a 3-point lead for Pitt.
Thomas got some minutes last year, came off the bench, and kind of guy that can provide some offensive firepower. They're certainly going to get that next year out of Ron Steele and Al Weber and John Flex. They got 3 outstanding recruits coming in. Steele's team was 36-0 in high school. He's Mr. Basketball as a junior.
Nearing the 2-minute mark.
Alabama.
Brown for 3. Krauser the assist.
I'll tell you what's really interesting. The last 3 situations, the threes have been divided between Krauser, Brown, and certainly in Page.
The lead back up to 6 for Pittsburgh. Now inside 2 minutes. Davidson inside. Can't get it to go, but he will shoot a couple. Now the biggest question, as we talked about, in the minds of the Pittsburgh program, can Carl Krauser run the show like Brandon Knight did? What do you think of that move?
Well, I don't know about Brandon Knight, but I know one thing. He can run it like Carl Krauser, and he did an excellent job distributing the rock right there. I think as the season progresses, he'll get better and better and better and be a very effective leader at that point guard slot. I think the Oakland Zoo is going to have a lot to cheer about down in Pittsburgh.
Well, they'll cheer for Troutman, but no more here tonight. He has just fouled out of the game. Krauser's playing it with 4. Troutman's gone, but Pittsburgh has a 6-point lead under 2 minutes to play. Jermario Davidson, the freshman for Alabama, is heading to the line as Jamie Dixon makes a substitution and sends Torrey Morris back in.
Jamie Dixon getting that opportunity now, slides over from the assistant's role to the head coaching role. Means more responsibilities, dealing with the media, dealing with all the fundraising and all the other extras that a coach has to do other than just recruit.
And what a road he's traveled. Played at TCU, was drafted by the Washington Bullets, played internationally in New Zealand and the Netherlands when he almost died after a collision.
Pancreas.
Yeah, ruptured his pancreas. He was in the hospital for 3 months. Coached at Hawaii, coached at UC Santa Barbara, Northern Arizona, Pittsburgh. I mean, he's been around.
He's been around. I'll tell you this, too. In 1987, he said he got robbed. He got fouled on a play, but instead they called a block on him against the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame and Digger Phelps. And he said David Rivers went to the line in the NCAA tournament and knocked down 2 free throws with 7 ticks to beat them. He said he's never forgotten that. Was an outstanding player for TCU.
I'm sure Digger didn't let him forget it today either.
No, Digger was able to get away with that with the officials. You know, utilized the Carnation and the Fighting Irish prestige, and poor TCU got an L. We're going to change that in Digger's record. We're going to take that.
Record.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Tomorrow night, ESPN and ESPN2 have some great college football action for you. It begins on ESPN2 at 7 Eastern as Pitt takes on West Virginia in the backyard brawl, featuring Heisman hopeful Larry Fitzgerald. Then on down ESPN at 7:45 Eastern, the LSU Tigers, number 3 in the country, taking on Alabama. LSU Alabama is also available on ESPN HD, now available nationwide. Well, we talked about how the fans have really come back to the Pittsburgh program. Beautiful new building, lots of wins. And the Oakland Zoo, which made you an honorary member. Turn the shirt around. There's the front.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we need to see.
What about my face? You don't see my face.
He's the sixth man.
I'm the sixth
You're the
man.
sixth man in the Oakland Zoo.
Zoo. Yes, sir. I'm in the Oakland Zoo. I belong in the zoo.
Yes, you do. Oakland doesn't matter where, anywhere. Whoever will take him in. Now Pittsburgh's going to try to use the clock again a little bit. Minute and a half to go, and they're up 6 in a very tough match here with Alabama. Tougher, I think, than many expected. Petway called for the foul.
He made a good play going for the ball, and the reason I mentioned that, one of the really primary responsibilities on the officials this year is the intentional foul. They are going to blow that a little bit more when players deliberately mug a guy, and they know that it's intentional, and yet they try to make like they're going for the ball. You're going to really have to strategically make a good effort to go for the basketball, or the official, and I will applaud that official that has the guts to blow the whistle and say that's intentional.
Taft back into the game and now for Pittsburgh. And Brock checks back in for Alabama. Krauser, after starting a little bit slowly here tonight, has really had a very big night. A terrific second half for Carl Krauser. He's knocking him down. Well, a minute and 28 seconds away. Is Jamie Dixon going to pick up a win in his head coaching debut? Back here with the Coaches versus Cancer Classic. This great event, now in its 9th year, was founded that many years ago by Norm Stewart, then the head coach of Missouri, and a cancer survivor himself, and a man who's been responsible for raising millions and millions of dollars toward the cause. The Missouri head coach for better than 30 years. He won 634 games at Mizzou.
I'll tell you, he did a phenomenal job as a leader, and he's done even a better job, his legacy, with all the dollars he's raised for cancer, just like our own Jim Valvano with the V Foundation. I'll tell you, really, when you think about Norm, he came back from that cancer, and he's had a smile on his face, and he's inspired so many people. Hey, Missouri, by the way, has got some outstanding personnel. Their big question is what is transpiring in the investigation process with Ricky Clemens.
You know, you talk about Norm Stewart and everything that he's done. Well, the Alabama program has been touched tragically by cancer twice in the last 5 years. 2 assistants have died of cancer for the last 5 years, and head coach Mark Gottfried, his former teammate and roommate Jim Farmer, also has been diagnosed with cancer, although Coach Gottfried announced a couple of weeks ago that he'd been in touch with Jim Farmer, and Farmer's been given a clean bill of health.
That's
so
great.
You know, this is something that it touches everybody. I mean, let's be honest, the millions of dollars that are being raised through this tournament and many other initiatives, I mean, it's a drop in the bucket, but it's a good start.
Well, it's a great start, and the bottom line also, with all the research being done today, people are able to go on and live their lives. Look at Jim Boeheim had prostate cancer, goes on and wins the national title. Jim Calhoun had prostate cancer. Bottom line, it's affected so many lives, but the research has been outstanding. I know the Jimmy V Foundation has raised over $30 million and provided research grants all over.
And the Jimmy V Classic here at Madison Square Garden this year on December the 9th. Texas, Arizona, Providence, Illinois.
I'll tell you, a player that people are going to really see this year, I think he's going to have a phenomenal year, D. Brown of Illinois. He is going to be super. Great quickness, and I love the Orange Crush fans. And Providence, Tim Welsh is going to have a club that could be a surprise in the Big East. Ryan Gomes can flat out play inside.
And we'll have that great doubleheader for you, the Jimmy V Classic, Texas, Arizona, Providence, Illinois, December the 9th. Doubleheader starting at 7 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN.
They watch Seton Hall as well with Andre Barrett and John Allen, Louis Orr's club. I thought last year got such a bad deal not getting into the NCAA tournament. I really believe that. And I will not stop saying it.
I know. 6-point lead here for Pittsburgh, trying to finish off the Crimson Tide here tonight, who have battled hard right from the opening tip.
And that was their problem last year, making free throws. So many teams lose close games down the end because they don't convert on that free throw line.
Shelton, a quick 3, a little bit short and off the shot clock. That'll turn it back over to the Panthers.
You know what's really interesting? They're down 6, Alabama. They played a really tough game tonight against a good basketball team, and they've been unable to get any point production out of their star in terms of Kennedy.
Kennedy Winston, the leading returning scorer at about 11 points per game last year as a freshman. Both coaches substituting offense, defense.
Got a hole right here.
And he called it an intentional, Dick.
Yes,
you were talking about that just a minute ago.
Away from the ball. Didn't waste any time. Made that call.
It's exactly what we heard about a few weeks ago, that in this kind of a situation when you're trailing and you clearly are trying to put an opposing player on the line without any time running off the clock, if you don't, if it's clearly away from the ball and you don't make it look like it's within the framework of normal basketball play, it's going to get called an intentional. And that's 2 in the ball.
2 shots in a basketball.
And Mark Gottfried becomes the first of many coaches this year, you would imagine, who are getting an explanation on how the new rule is being interpreted.
I just like the poise of Mark Gottfried. I really like his ability to lead on that side. I love his passion for his university, having graduated from Alabama.
And you can see Duke Etzel, the official, he was saying to Mark Gottfried, he grabbed him with both hands, and that's going to get called this year, whereas last year everybody knew they were just trying to put him on the line, but nobody cared, and they just called it a normal foul.
It was away from the ball, and that's what really made it too so obvious.
Now Petway is called for the foul, not an intentional one.
Hey, look at that SEC. That SEC, I really love Kentucky. The bottom line is Tubby Smith knows how to win. You know, to go undefeated like he did last year in the SEC, that is special. Think about that. To go undefeated, run the table, and then win the SEC tournament.
So 19-0 in this league, really, with the tournament.
Exactly. But I was shocked the way they took a blitzing from Marquette.
Wow. But a lot of coaches will say that it's a shame these days that you're only evaluated on your success or lack thereof in March, and everything else, you know, gets forgotten.
Oh, I agree with that. I think for years people have said, what about Roy Williams? He hasn't been able to win the national title. Bottom line is he has produced one winner after another. To me, you don't have to prove to me by cutting the nets down that you're a great coach. Somewhere along that line, you need a little bit of luck has to step in there as well. I mean, Jimmy Boeheim was a great coach before he won the national title.
Carl Krauser with a career high tonight for Pittsburgh. The Panthers are up by 9. Davis, who's got a career high, just keeps adding to his totals. He's now got 20 points. 1 more than he scored all of last season as a freshman.
I tell you, they can build on his performance. Alabama, they can leave here with their heads high, that they've really found some players that are going to be able to contribute this year.
Well, we found some players who are going to give us a whale of a game, we think, in game 2 tonight. Number 12, Gonzaga, and number 18, St. Joseph's, led by one of the best point guards in the country, Jameer Nelson. His coach, Phil Martelli, says he's not only the best point guard in the country, he's the best college basketball player, period, in the country. A guy who thought about going to the NBA, went to the pre-draft camp, but did not hire an agent, retained his eligibility, came back to school for his senior season, and big things up ahead, it looks like, this year for both St. Joseph's and for Gonzaga. They're both loaded.
Had a great time talking to him today, and I can tell you he's a quality kid as well. And I know all the people in Chester, PA are so proud of him. They really, the barber shop, everybody gets involved. He's their guy, just like the running back now. The great running back Jones down at Virginia Tech is also from Chester.
Evan Brock is fouled out for Alabama as Jerron Brown knocks one down for Pittsburgh.
You know, Nelson had 34 last year against Gonzaga, beat him on New Year's Eve out there at the kennel, broke up, I think it was a 29-game win streak.
Home game wins. And the year before on New Year's Eve, Dan Dickau won it for Gonzaga in Philadelphia. So they've each won on the other's home court the last 2 years. A 3 for Emmett Thomas.
Emmett Thomas can provide some points for him. They got to get points out of Shelton and out of Kennedy Winston.
They've gotten some unexpected offense, a lot of unexpected offense from Chuck Davis inside tonight, but have not gotten as much as expected from the perimeter.
Yeah, Shelton's a guy that's got to really give them some offense, shooting the 3, and certainly we know that Kennedy Winston's going to be a lot better, having surgery on September 11th. Very difficult to start playing at this time of the year after surgery just about a few weeks ago.
Here's Taft, the talented freshman at the line for the Panthers, a double-figure rebounding game in his collegiate debut. The best of the newcomers, and there are 6 freshmen right now on this Pittsburgh team. 2 of them redshirt freshmen, 4 of them true freshmen. And the bench is basically inexperienced for the Panthers. A lot of these guys are going to have to become factors for Pittsburgh to approach the kind of success they've had the last couple of years.
Hey, Dan, the reason they're going to go back to Pittsburgh with the W today, let's make no bones about it. It's the performance in the second half by Krauser.
Yep.
He was brilliant here in the second half. Made free throws, penetrated, made big threes, took control of the team, and really got them to execute. He by far was the star of stars for Pittsburgh.
Petway flying up the court, jacks up a three from the corner. Rebound for Thomas, misses it too, and Page skies over everybody and draws the foul. Here it is, Dick. You talked about it. Now visually, here's what Carl Krauser's done here tonight.
He's been a difference maker. He's been the guy that's made all the big plays. Made a great entry right there to Troutman. Shows his passing ability. Now he shows the ability on the defensive end with the steal, the dish, the score. Now a little shake and bake. Little New York City, man. I'm on the streets, he said, right to my hometown. Shows he can shoot the trifecta.
Krauser at the break had 2 points on 1 for 8 shooting. He's got 17 points in the second half and a career high 19 in the game. This is his chance to shine, really, with a Brandon Knight gone now. Krauser takes over as the starting point guard for Pittsburgh.
Look at a lot of minutes now. Kids dream of getting those minutes. They all want that PT, baby. They all want that playing time. Well, he has it right now.
Petway again. The floater goes.
Nice play by Petway, taking the ball in traffic and scoring.
Yeah, he's got 17 tonight.
I'll tell you, those coaches have done a heck of a job with an inexperienced team. When I look over there at Phil Pearson and I think about Orlando Early, an outstanding assistant coach, Mark Gottfried, who does the great job as the leader. I'm telling you one thing, when you look at that club, they certainly are limited in personnel in terms of experience, but those kids are ready to play here.
Coming up next, St. Joseph's and Gonzaga. We talked about the 2 outstanding basketball games they played against one another the last 2 years. New Year's Eve 2001. Dan Dickow with a three-pointer with 3 seconds left, and Gonzaga beats St. Joseph's 83-80 in Philly. Then out in Spokane last year, also on New Year's Eve, Jameer Nelson just took over. He scored 34 points in an overtime win as the Zags had a shot that wouldn't go at the buzzer at the end of overtime. So the Hawks won 79-78. As both coaches said earlier today, 2 of the best games that have been played in the country the last couple of years. Not that many people saw them because neither game was televised nationally. Well, tonight we're hoping for just as good a game. And you heard Reese and the guys asking Coach Martelli and Coach Few, could they guarantee another buzzer beater here tonight? We hope so.
You know, it's amazing. In 90 minutes of action, when you talk about the overtime periods, the bottom line is in 90 minutes, there's like a basket that separates them. You know, Barry Rawson trying to get some airtime right now, talking to Larry Rose, the official. Look at him right there getting some airtime. New York City does a great job. He's from New York, knows the city really well.
Coming up between games here on ESPN2. Reese, Jay, Digger, and Steve Lavin, a college basketball update. Also Gonzaga, don't call them Cinderella anymore. And Andy Katz, the incomparable columnist from ESPN.com, contributor on ESPN, ESPN News, ESPN Radio, you name it. He does it with some news about the Oklahoma basketball program. Wow. So stay tuned for that. Krauser with a tough catch, nice little dribble, and then draws the foul. He is not going to rush anything to the basket right now, with Pitt 19.8 seconds away from Jamie Dixon's first coaching win as a head coach. He has never been a head coach at any level prior to tonight, but he's on the verge of a win in his debut.
He's on the verge of a win. He's denying Mark Gottfried his 100th win.
Yeah, that's right.
Krauser on a free throw line, a little bit more effective than Knight was, because that was an area where Knight really struggled.
You know, and I've done a lot of Pittsburgh games, and I've seen Jamie Dixon's facial expressions a lot on the bench. I've never seen that look of anguish as an assistant coach like I just saw as a head coach. He's wrinkling that brow a little bit more here tonight than he ever has before.
He's a child actor, man. This guy was a child actor. Played in a bunch of commercials. His dad, the little Hollywood script. How did he get away from acting? Could have stayed in Hollywood. Who knows?
Now after the 2 free throws, an 8-point lead for Pitt, and Pittsburgh calls a timeout. Well, Pittsburgh expected to be again one of the major contenders in the Big East Conference. They were the tournament champions last year, a Sweet 16 team each of the last 2 years. I know you've got Connecticut as #1, not only in the Big East, but in the country. Who else after UConn? Give me your next few.
Well, you know, Syracuse, forget about it. Connecticut's right there, but Syracuse is that close. They really going to have an outstanding year. And then I think you throw into the pot teams like Notre Dame with the combination combination of Chris Thomas. You know, everybody's talking about Jameer Nelson as the best point guard in America. He might be, but there's a kid down in Notre Dame that's pretty good, like Thomas and Torrin Francis. Then you talk about Tim Welsh and that club at Providence. I think that club certainly could be outstanding. And then you talk about the likes of, Pittsburgh's going to be right in the mix as well. St. John's, it's going to be a struggle based on what we watched last night. I think really it's so unfortunate for Mike Jarvis and his kids that they're getting no support from the fans, especially early. You play a Final Four team, you play a team on your home floor, and there's nobody that comes out to see you play. I mean, that is really sad.
By the way, Matt Carroll, the former Notre Dame star who's now with the NBA with Portland, his younger brother, Pat Carroll, is a lefty sharpshooter, and he plays for St. Joseph's. We're going to see him in a game 2 here tonight.
And it was at a time last year when he was leading the nation shooting threes. Not Matt, his brother.
Now the crowd, which at this point is filling up rapidly with St. Joseph's fans, they want to get the Hawks on the floor, so they're booing the fouls. There's Ronny Turiaf, who just practiced yesterday for the first time the entire preseason, coming back from a stress fracture in his foot. And he, as Doris Burke told us earlier, is going to play here tonight for Gonzaga against St. Joseph's.
See, and I think a big player on the inside could come back quicker than a guard who's got to go up and down that floor, run the offense. And the second factor is, remember this, he played all summer, played internationally with the France national team.
Mark Hughes said, you know, he almost forgot how good Turiaf was until he came back to practice yesterday. That's going to do it. A game effort by Alabama, a young, inexperienced team. But Jamie Dixon picks up a win in his head coaching debut by beating